Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. Today we're going to talk about the novel concept that you can be ticketed for speeding while driving below the speed limit. You can be ticketed for speeding while driving below the speed limit. In Michigan, it's called the Basic Speed Law, and in other states, it might have other names that are often similar to that. But violation of the Basic Speed Law, in essence, is a police officer says you were speeding despite the fact that the speed limit is a number higher than the speed at which you were traveling. Now, I'll admit I've only handled a few of these tickets in my career because they're fairly uncommon. And the law makes sense if you think about it, but sometimes it doesn't make sense depending on how it's applied. So, the street in front of your house might have a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. You pull out of your subdivision or wherever and you get into a slightly faster road and the speed limit's 45. And most of those speed limits make sense most of the time. But what happens is, in bad weather, especially if you live near Michigan and you understand what happens in the wintertime, you can get icy conditions, you can get slushy conditions, you get snow-covered roads, and there are situations where you know you need to drive slower. And we've all had that happen before. We're out driving around and all of a sudden you see some knucklehead go sailing by you. And not only are they driving too fast for the conditions, they might even be speeding without the conditions. And I've seen that happen too. We've seen cars go into ditches and slide off the road and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so the basic speed law is the concept that you must always be driving no faster than is safe for you to drive. So in Michigan, it's MCL 257-627. A person operating a vehicle on a highway shall operate that vehicle at a careful and prudent speed, not greater than nor less than is reasonable and proper, having due regard to the traffic, surface, and width of the highway, and of any other condition existing at the time. A person shall not operate a vehicle upon a highway at a speed greater than that which will permit a stop within the assured clear distance ahead. Violation of this subsection shall be known and may be referred to as a violation of the Basic Speed Law, or VBSL. Yes, the legislature took the time out to explain to you that if you wanted to abbreviate the phrase violation of the Basic Speed Law, you could say VBSL, all caps. You'll also notice there's a phrase in there where it says stopping within the assured clear distance ahead. And if you ever rear-ended somebody, got ticketed for it. I remember in the old days, they'd actually call that failure to stop within an assured cleared distance. But they've rolled that now into the Basic Speed Law, at least if you failed to stop because you were driving too fast for the conditions. But there's a bunch of interesting points to be made here, not the least of which it says you shall not drive at a speed greater than or less than. So if you were driving too slow in bad conditions, a police officer could say, hey, it's bad out here, but it ain't that bad. I'm going to give you a ticket for that. And so I can tell you right now that about a year ago, a friend of mine contacted me and said, Steve, I got one of these tickets for violation of the Basic Speed Law, VBSL. And I said, what happened? And he said, I was out driving around. It had snowed. And my friend has a four-wheel drive vehicle. It's kind of lifted with big old tires and stuff. And he goes, this thing runs great in the snow. Drove past a police officer, and the police officer, fired up the lights, pulled him over. And when my friend said, what have I done wrong, officer? He said, you're driving too fast for the conditions. And my friend pointed out, well, I was driving well below the speed limit. And he says, well, not below enough, and wrote him a ticket for that. And now here's the thing. I went into court, and I helped my friend with this ticket. And I said to the prosecutor, and I believe this is actually a very good argument, but I said to the officer, or the prosecutor, I said, look, I've been handling traffic tickets for 25 years, 26 years at that time. And I said, I've only seen this ticket written when something bad happened as a result of the failure to observe the Basic Speed Law. So in other words, you're driving down the road, you wind up in a ditch. There's pretty much no set of facts where that's what you intended to do or where that's the ideal outcome for what you're doing. So if you find yourself in a ditch, there's a chance that you were driving too fast right before whatever happened that caused you to go into the ditch. Now, I understand if you come around a curve and you're driving perfectly safely on dry pavement below the speed limit, you come around the curve, and there's a nun pushing a baby carriage, and you swerved to avoid hitting them, and you went into the ditch. I could see you saying that was you driving prudently the entire way, I suppose. But generally speaking, police officer's driving down the road and he sees a car in the ditch. And he walks up and, is talking to the person who's, driving that car and says, "How'd you wind up in the ditch?" They say, "Well, I was coming around the corner there and I miscalculated something. I skidded and I went into the ditch." Well, if the roads are icy and you should have been driving slower and you wound up in the ditch, a police officer could say, "You must have been driving too fast for the conditions because you wound up in the ditch." Presumably, if you're driving slower, that wouldn't have happened. But notice also that a lot of this is going to depend on the opinion of the police officer. The police officer who pulled over my friend was driving slow. My friend passed him legally, but the police officer said, "Well, you know something? The speed I was driving was the safe one. The speed you were driving was unsafe for these conditions." And so it's going to hinge a lot on the opinion of the police officer, which also explains why you're probably going to lose this if you fight it on its merits. We'll get back to that in a second. But I've seen these tickets written, like I said, where somebody runs into a ditch, they run off the road, or they're in an accident under bad conditions. So in other words, it's snowing out, the roads are icy, conditions are just, worthless. And, all of a sudden there's a collision because somebody couldn't stop, okay? They could get a ticket for failure to stop within an assured clear distance, or the police officer could go, "You must have been driving too fast, therefore it's a violation of the basic speed law." And so the basic speed law ticket's what you're going to get. And so I've seen those where it looked to me like it was more of a, proper thing to write, because if the person had been driving slow, they would have avoided the accident, going into the ditch, running over the mailboxes, whatever they did. In the situation with my friend, nothing happened. Nothing happened. What I think happened was there was a bruised ego of a police officer who thought, "Hey, I'm out here driving in the snow, and hey, that guy thinks he's faster than me." That's what I honestly think happened. But I wasn't there. So when I talked to the prosecutor, I said, nothing happened. My guy's driving a vehicle that can handle those conditions. The police officer's in a car, probably can't handle those conditions. But the speed that my client was traveling was safe for his vehicle under those conditions. We got it reduced, didn't get it eliminated. That never happens. But the point is that you can be driving below the speed limit, and if it's deemed that that is not reasonable and proper with due regard to the traffic, surface, and width of the highway or other conditions, then you can get a ticket for violation of the basic speed law, which is in essence, you're speeding below the speed limit. And so in case you're curious, it is a 2-point offense. I looked it up. In Michigan, it's 2 points, and most basic tickets are 2 points. Some tickets are 3. And in case you're curious about these things, in Michigan at least, it's 12 points to lose your license. But long before that happens, you're going to have trouble with your insurance. In fact, many insurance companies will start jacking your rates when you get 3 points or more. And so, 2 points probably won't hurt you if you have a clean record. But on the other hand, I would always suggest that you fight any ticket that's got points associated with it. And the question always is, like I said, if you get pulled over and ticketed for violation of the basic speed law, the question is, what did you do that was proof that you were, in essence, driving too fast for the conditions, traffic, surface, and so on. So, like I said, it's going to depend a lot on the opinion of the police officer. If you fight this on its merits, you're going to lose. And like I've always pointed out before, civil infraction tickets are not considered crimes in the state of Michigan and in many other states. And so you're not entitled to a jury, and you're also not even entitled to the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You're just entitled to the preponderance, meaning that the police officer is going to say, under those conditions, he was driving too fast. And you're going to say, under the conditions, I wasn't, because nothing bad happened. And the judge is going to go, got a guy over here who says that he's driving okay, and we have a police officer who's a trained professional, who's, a professional witness and knows what he's talking about, and he's taken all kinds of courses in evasive driving and whatever else they teach you at the police academy. So with all else being equal, I have to go, police officer wins, driver loses. So like I said, if you're faced with one of these tickets and you have a clean driving record, go in and try to get it reduced. And I've done videos on how to handle a traffic ticket yourself, and if I can dig up the link, I'll put it in the comments below, or I'll put it in the description of the video. But again, violation of the basic speed law. That is where you get ticketed for driving too fast, even though you're not driving faster than a speed limit. Questions or comments, as always, comments below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.